Yeah, I love trying to target Marquise Brown right now. Hollywood
Me
Brown.
too.
We've already seen him. I think gain some value this offseason as, of course, mostly as a result of that trade from Baltimore to the Cardinals. But then again, really everything that's happened since then, and most notably the suspension for DeAndre Hopkins, is just really a game changer for Hollywood Brown. And I've seen and heard some suggest that Brown is not the type that can be a wide receiver one, and I get that. I mean, I've definitely had those concerns about him and his play style, and kind of the hot and cold that we've seen from him. Last season, he was averaging 16.4 fantasy points with Lamar Jackson in the lineup, and that dropped to just 9 fantasy points without Lamar. So if we're assuming Kyler Murray is good to go, and I think at this point we are, then I'm pretty excited about Hollywood Brown. Graham Barfield of our buddy from Fantasy Points dropped a great stat earlier this week on Twitter that just 37% of Marquise Brown's deep targets, that's 20 yards or more in the air, were deemed catchable last year. Of course, most of those coming from Lamar Jackson, and that's been one of the criticisms of his game over the years. Kyler Murray led the league in that category. 68% of his deep targets were considered catchable. Not were caught, but were considered catchable. So another major upgrade in really the stat or the category that matters most for Hollywood.
I'm targeting him as well if you can get your hands on him, because he is going to be that number one guy early in the season, and a surge in production early could help him later on when Hopkins returns to that lineup, and they know what they have in the speedster on the outside. I was looking at Hollywood's numbers, and like you, Ryan, I was thinking to myself that guy had a strong year last year, but a majority of it came early, right? With a quarterback that uses his legs to get open, second chance opportunities down the field. And he had those 4 really big games in the first half of the season where he finished as a wide receiver 1. And even his down weeks there for a few weeks, he was finishing as a wide receiver 2. He had a floor of 4 or 5 catches for 60 yards and scored nearly every week when Lamar was healthy. Of course, that dropped off dramatically. And now he's in a new situation, but it's really similar when you look at it because of the offense they play in, a lot of downfield throwing, a lot of opportunities down the field. So I love that.
The most recent trade in the trade finder is Myles Gaskin, Chase Claypool, and the 201. I'll do that all day for Marquise. There's another one here, Marquise Brown for Damian Harris and KJ Hamler just a couple of days ago. So, I mean, these are outliers, I'm sure, but I think a 23 first is a good starting point, and I think that probably gets it done. I picked James Washington. We know the situation in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb is there, obviously. Dalton Schultz is probably going to be the number 2 receiving target in that offense until Michael Gallup comes back. We were excited about the rookie Jalen Tolbert, but for the first, 4 to 6 games, I don't know how long it's going to take for Gallup to get back. It's going to be CeeDee Lamb and not a whole lot else at receiver other than James Washington. Have some stats from his time in Pittsburgh. In 6 games, only 6 games in his entire 4 years in Pittsburgh, did he see at least 7 targets. And in those games, he averaged almost 5 receptions, about 70 yards, and about half a touchdown a game. So I feel like at least in the early part of the season, until they get a little bit healthier there, until Gallup comes back, I think 7 targets is pretty reasonable for a guy like Washington in that offense that's going to throw the ball.
I guess, honestly, I kind of gave up on James Washington because he's throughout his entire career, he's been a player that I've liked and that has been on my dynasty rosters. But when a couple of years ago, when Big Ben got hurt, Mason Rudolph ends up in the lineup. I believe at least one of the wide receivers was out at that for that stretch as well. It's Mason Rudolph and it's James Washington, right? The college combo, and he still couldn't really get it done with this college quarterback. That just kind of sealed the deal for me with James Washington. But I like the situation short term, so I get it for a 4th rounder.
I'm going with a running back, J.K. Dobbins from Baltimore. Of course, we all know about the gruesome knee injury that he suffered in preseason last year, and that was rough. It really his dynasty value took a hit, but all reports are that he's recovering, that he is expected to be back early this season, if not already in training camp. And For my money, guys, we remember his rookie season when he started so slow. He didn't get a lot of opportunities for the first half of the year. Of course, Mark Ingram was there in Baltimore that season. Gus Edwards was getting opportunities as well. But late in the year, starting in week 11 through week 17, those 6 matchups, he showed exactly what he could be. Top 21 running back all 6 weeks, had 2 top 6 finishes at the position, touchdowns in 6 straight games to finish that rookie season. And then we didn't get to see him as a sophomore. He suffered that injury in the preseason. The dynasty value took that hit, but he still finished as an RB2 in 2020, his rookie season, despite that slow finish, because he's in a run-heavy offense with a run-first quarterback, with defenses having to key in on that quarterback running game. That creates opportunities for J.K. Dobbins. It's going to this year. For my money, guys, I think he's going to win Comeback Player of the Year. I think he's going to be an RB1 for fantasy. And potentially, he is one of the handful, maybe 10 or so running backs that you could say, that guy legit has a shot to be the number 1 running back in fantasy.
So like at this point last offseason, they had re-signed Gus Edwards. It was pretty clear that they were going to be using both backs. Both backs were presumably healthy this year. Gus Edwards has been completely written off basically by the dynasty. I mean, I don't even know if he's been drafted in our recent mocks or not. Do you think he's going to be involved in a significant enough way to affect Dobbins at all? I think there's going to be plenty of rushing volume to go around for Lamar and JK and Edwards and maybe even another back. But I just wonder if we're forgetting about that and if there's any reason to, go out and pick up Gus Edwards off your waivers or toss a 4th round pick at him or something like that.
I don't have a problem with having Gus Edwards. Clearly, he's going to have a role, but wouldn't you anticipate that this is a team that's going to try to run the ball 40 times a game?
Yeah.
And if we think that J.K. Dobbins is getting the lion's share of those touches, it's probably in the 18 to 20 for Dobbins and the 8 to 10 for Gus Edwards.
I guess I'm just mostly surprised that Dobbins' value has not bounced back more than it has. You talked about his ADP in the late 3rd round. Even Cam Akers, who's I still consider his injury much more serious, even though he was able to get back on the field. He's being drafted a half a round earlier. I have much more confidence in Dobbins versus Akers right now.